Hello and welcome everyone to today's Garuda Talks. I have a wonderful book with me called Dharmaputri. Um, the book is called O Dharmaputri, and it's a very unusual book, uh, which is in the form of a letter or a narrative from parents to their child, their daughter. So I'm very pleased to invite Vidya and Parani onto the Garuda podcast. Namaste,
Understand.
namaste,
Namaste.
Vidya ji, Parani ji. So glad to have you there, and welcome to the show tonight. Um,
Thank you.
I was reading through your book, and it's such an unusual, beautiful, light, whimsical, deep. All of those books, all in one. So it was a really wonderful book to read, and it's one of those where oftentimes you read a book and saying, this is a book that I could have written, or this is a book that I would have loved to have written because it's like got that intimacy to it. So tell me how this idea came about. What got you on this thought that you're going to do this in a book form? It's a very intimate narrative of your own family, of your experiences. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it started last year when our daughter Uma, she was getting ready to go to university, and we were filling up the application forms. And it's at that time that it really hit us that she was going to leave home. And she's our only child. She's been with us for 18 years, and we have lived. She was born in Hong Kong, and we've lived in Cyprus since then. And and then we had to process that she's leaving. So we had a couple of questions. If we had prepared her enough for life, and at the same time, it was also processing the emotion. Uh, Personally, I'm not a very emotive person, but but when these thoughts come through my mind, I try to write it down. And it started as writing a letter. And then I said, Vidya, why don't you join me in writing a letter for her so she's well prepared for life? And at some point, we realized that we have discussed with her the concepts of life, the aspirations of life, let's say moral conduct during dinner conversations, in the car rides. But we were thinking, does she remember it all? So that was the question, and oftentimes, sometimes it's 1 year in and the other year out, or sometimes it just fades with time. So we thought, why not use this opportunity to write something more profound, more wholesome? And so that letter, which began as a 2-page letter, became 300 pages. And we had to, of course, borrow from the ancient wisdom of our great civilization. And we wrote this down to prepare her for life. And Vidya, being a yoga teacher, also, uh, brought with her her own perspective.
Yes, O Dharmaputri is our way of reaching out to her. As all teenagers are, they have multiple priorities at this point, and they have a whole life ahead of them, and the newfound freedom, and many things that they have to go through. So we thought this book would be like a gentle guide to her and many other children like her. So this is the reason we wrote O Dharmaputri. And we also, it's not only about the wisdom from our dharma, it's also the stories from our own families. And I'm sure many families in India have their own stories like this. So this is also an attempt to remind everyone of their own stories and to connect with that, with the deep truths from those stories. This is the idea behind the book.
No, it's a beautiful way to bring the dharma to life, and I'm struck by the fact that in our tradition, all knowledge is actually conveyed through story, right? We uh, very rarely have disembodied knowledge. There are cases of it, but most of the time, of course, through the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, but also through the Upanishads or all of those, they are all uh, featured in the context of a story, right? So the story is
True.
the anchor, and the way. So that really struck me, that it is in a way an Upanishadic discourse that you're having, and you start with your personal journey, your story, and then of course all of the threads start to weave in. So, without giving too much away, you both have very unusual kind of journeys, right? It's not a, it's based on different places in the world where you grew up and you came together. So, give us a little flavor of that. I'm sure the readers would want to have much more detail in reading the book. And as I said, this is one of the books I remember when my daughter was getting born. I wrote. I wrote a letter to her. This was, I think, right before her birth was happening, and many things. And I also wrote that, may you a lot of times I find parents are also putting their own desire onto the child. So after all the letter I wrote, I said, may you find your own way and not not follow the way that I'm telling you to. So there's always that delicate balance
True.
between you know what how much we can say and do, and and at the same time, knowing that they are their own person. They are their own person who's going to find their own way in life at the same time. So give us a little bit of flavor of the stories, and then we can talk a little bit more about how does a parent even talk to one's child. I think this is a big question.
Sure.
Uh, so we have this habit of uh, talking to her during meal times and during the car rides, that about random things, and among them it's not only all advice, and because like you said, most of the messages are carried through stories, and the stories stay long after the theory that we are trying to impart. So all these stories, we as we were writing the book, and the chapters kind of wrote themselves, and we found the stories connected to each of them. Of course, the let's say the first story is a very emotional one. It's about my great grandfather who was a freedom fighter. He was part of the people who had taken to South Africa as bonded laborer in during the British time, and he managed to build himself a life. And then when Gandhiji went to Durban, he was there, and he was so inspired by Gandhiji. So when Gandhiji came back to India, he also came back with him, and he was so unprepared for a life in India that he had to learn Tamil. Basically, our language. He didn't have a chance to learn that, and it's history that he learned Tamil, and he joined the freedom struggle movement. And when my grandmother was going to be born, he was incarcerated in prison, and the British, they said, like when he wanted to come and see his wife and newborn child, they said, okay, you write a letter that you apologize for all your actions, and you will give up the freedom movement. So that was a terrible, terrible choice that he had to make, and he chose dharma. And he said, no, I will not write such a letter, because he had this passion for seeing his motherland becoming free. And even if that meant that he never could see his newborn, and it so happened that my great grandmother also passed away in that delivery. So he didn't get a chance to say goodbye to his wife. So that was the kind of profound sacrifice that many of our forefathers have done for us to be free today and to have this luxury of freedom. So this is something that we always found uh, that we should pass it on to the next generation, so they don't take this easily. This didn't come easily, the freedom. And also what made him do that?
I'm not hearing the sound very much. I don't know if there's a connection problem on the other side.
Yeah, and
So hopefully the connection is fine for the viewers. I was having a difficult time hearing in the middle, but
or law enforcement to protect people they don't even know. They are so society was based on our own family's experiences, our own what we have seen in our life, coming from very modest backgrounds, what we have seen our grandparents and our parents and our relatives sacrifice for each other, take care of each other. Oftentimes this is perceived as a responsibility, as a burden, or work. We talk about work-life balance, and sometimes the work is perceived as a burden. What we try to express in this book, that these responsibilities are not necessarily a burden. They are part of a larger context of our lives, and in fulfilling these responsibilities, doing the right thing, even though it may not be easy, or it may not it may involve sacrifice, that is dharma. And like Vidya mentioned, she has seen this in our family, and like you mentioned, we have also tried to do the right thing. Sometimes we have done it properly. We have made mistakes along the way, and we've tried, and then we share our mistakes in the book as well, and we say, this is something to avoid, because as humans we have emotions, anger, fear, and we then talk about yoga as a means to overcome those emotions, or let's say use it as a way not to let these overcome you.
Can I say something? It's not so much as overcome the emotion, it's about transcending them.
Yeah.
Because yoga helps us to transcend our limitations, both physical and emotional, and reach the true happiness, which is not dependent on any external factors. So the bliss which is within us, when I say that to some people, they say, no, I'm sure there's no bliss in me. And I assure them, yes, it is there in everyone. It's just that we need to calm the thoughts so we can go inside and experience this bliss. And yoga, I believe, is one of the biggest blessings that we have for humanity, not only and from our dharma, from our way of life. So we have also shared some of our perspectives. We don't assume to be some sort of experts, but this is all about our perspective from our experience, how we think it is.
And when we write for our child, the relationship between a parent and a child is one of the purest of relationships in nature. You can only want the best for your child, and that is universal. And this is something that each of us feel, though our storylines may be different, but the aspirations or the wishes that we have for our children is the purest. And that is the emotion behind sharing what we have shared in this book, uh, with absolutely the best intentions. And again, when we wrote this book, uh, we also thought of asking our parents and our cousins. We said, okay, Uma is going to university now. What advice do you want to give her? So they gave a few ideas which we put down in the book. But some of my cousins, they also said, that's actually a very good thing you're doing. Even I want to impart such advice to my children, but I don't know how to articulate it. Uh, I want to I want my children to carry on the ethos of our great civilization, of our Vedas, our Puranas, our uh,
Upanishads.
our Upanishads. But I'm not sure how to pass it on. So they said, if you write it, I will use this to pass it on to my children, that is our nephews and nieces, and that's why this project became larger than the letter that we originally thought it would be.
Absolutely, and it's something that, it's really helpful for every parent and every child. I remember that, my own children, of course, going off to college, but more than that, I think, especially as Hindu parents, we have done a poorer job, for some reason, of actually informing and educating our children on dharma. I think we've made it more laissez-faire, like they are going to figure it out on their own, or maybe some households do some puja, or have some festivals. But really, I think this is one of the really remarkable contributions of your book, and I hope it gets very widely read and very widely gifted, actually, by parents to their children, because it in a very light way, it conveys so much. It has so much coming from different parts of the tradition. And that was one of the other questions I have from our own journeys. There's always, how did you become interested in the tradition, or how did you get to a point where you thought this was something useful, or get to take it seriously, so I'd love to hear that part of the story also.
Yes, I mean, I think it's a very good question, because oftentimes it becomes like fish in water. So we live the culture, we live the tradition, and oftentimes, and then when we are asked to describe it, it becomes a bit difficult.
Also, that in India, we were living
Yeah.
in the water of Dharma.
Yeah.
And we didn't realize so many things that actually need to be explained to children. But because we were so immersed in it, it was much easier for us to absorb it.
Yeah.
And for these children, and on that point of passing on the, as Hindu parents, passing on the spiritual philosophy, I think we are doing a great job. Also, we have to, acknowledge what we are doing right. I think we are passing on the culture as such, the festivals, the pujas, all the rituals. This, we're doing a good job of passing on. What is possibly, what will help a little bit more is to understand the philosophical context and the theory behind it. And then you kind of make sense of what we are doing. It's not just, why do you do this? The question will pop up, because they go through the period of rebellion. Everything they need to question why. That's how they discover the world. So if we can answer the why, then I think how and what they do with their lives, that will take care of itself.
And coming to your question about our own life journey and how it started, both of us are from the Tanjore area. So as you know, Tanjore and Vidhya is from Kumbakonam. Tanjore, as you know, the place of the great Brihadishwara temple, built by Rajaraja Chola more than 1,000 years ago. And Vidya is from Kumbakonam, that is what is called
Temple town.
the temple town, or the pot, where the story of all living beings is supposed to be. And we've grown along the banks of the Kaveri River, and we have so many 1,000-year-old temples right next door. And going there, one might take it for granted, and we realize that it's easy to take it for granted. These old temples, you see the ancient tradition living and breathing. You will hear the same mantras and the same prayers that have been said for thousands of years. So these subconsciously, we imbibe these subconsciously. And along with it came, you had conversations about Ramayana and Mahabharata and all the Devis. These were part of everyday life. Our grandmothers, both Vidhya and I, our grandmothers talked to us about the various stories of our land. As you mentioned earlier, the traditions are embedded in the stories, and we heard this from our grandmothers, from our parents. And we also had our yoga journeys. Vidya will describe hers separately. But for me, my father practiced yoga, and so I was exposed to it at a very young age. So I also started doing, though it was not very consistent. But through the Vivekananda Kendra, I learned my yoga at a very early stage. And then, I lived my childhood in the Andaman Islands. From there, I went to sea. And oftentimes, when you are at sea, you are exposed to nature and you see the vastness of the oceans and the vastness of the skies. And for those who are attuned to the universe, you feel a connection. When you're out there, there's no other people, there is no other trace of civilization. You feel the enormity and the vastness of the universe, and you can also sense how small you are in comparison with the universe, but at the same time how connected you are, because you feel the energy of the universe. And then progressively, then I moved to a corporate role where, once again I could resume my yoga journey with meditation and pranayam and also yoga. And I have seen the transformation, in my case, both physically, mentally, and spiritually, the transformation that yoga has given me. And that's one reason why the second half of the book is actually dedicated towards yoga, because in the first half we actually set the context of our dharma, but in the second half we talk about how yoga is actually one of the ethos or the culture of our land, which gives a roadmap towards self-realization and improving oneself and being a more productive citizen in society.
So yoga is, I would say, is like a vehicle for dharma. How dharma can travel through our lives. So yoga has a very practical, it's like a practical manual of how we can, travel the path of dharma. So, like he said, I was brought up in a landlocked town, so there was no big big ocean to give me that sense of connectedness. But the temples and the visits to the temples, those serve that same purpose for me. And
if I may, yes. So right next to Vidya's town is also Tirukadiyur. So the legend is that is the place where Markandeya, he was able to plead to Shiva, and continue beyond his life limit of 16 years. So that's the significance of that temple, which is close to Vidya's place. And also it's,
The
the,
goddess is, the goddess Abhirami
yeah.
is like, let's say, my Ishtadevata. So yoga is something that I discovered as a physical practice, because that was in my teens. It was very easy for us to stay in shape, and it was like very cool thing to do at that age. So that is what was. Everyone was going to yoga class, so I went. But as the years rolled by, I also found deeper meaning, and it helped me to deal with life's challenges, like because we have moved entire countries like twice, and every time we had to find the stability and find a home there. So that was not easy, and every time you have to make changes to your from what language you speak and to everything. So yoga helped me to find that balance, and to also beyond that, to reach the, let's say, meditation is another tool to reach the bliss I was talking about. I'm still not there fully. I need, it takes lifetimes of practice. I wouldn't assume that I'm there or something. And that's another thing with yoga, is that it gives you that sense of humility, that um, it's a big ego buster, let's say, because you experience life in its most pure form when you are doing yoga on the mat, and when you're meditating, and there's a sense of humility that comes,
And beyond,
and
even beyond the yoga mat as well.
yes, and it, of course, it carries on in life as well. So for me, from young age, like even when I was 10, when everyone was reading comics, I was interested in my father's Siddhanta and Vedanta philosophy books, and I always found them fascinating. And even when I studied architecture, my final year thesis was about a holistic healing center, where I did a deep dive of Ayurveda and yoga, and how these alternate healing practices can help people, and I designed uh, a holistic healing center with all these alternative therapy methods, and how, and the site plan was based on the chakra anatomy of human body, and I was deep into it. I still am, but sometimes it's surprising how, this is when we say, we also talk about it in the book, that each one of us are born with a vasana, that means tendency towards things that attract us. So instead of fighting it, it's good to surrender and go with it and see where it takes us.
Lean into it, yeah.
Lean into it.
So, Vidya and I, we share the approach towards life. We've, with our yoga practice, alongside that, we have also, been, we have 3+ bookshelves in our house with a wide range of books, both with modern science, architecture, in my case, navigation and ship management. But alongside that, we have also the Upanishads and the Vedas and our Tamil literature. And we've been reading this, we constantly read. And we read this without any aim. The reading was just done as something that we thought,
They were fascinating, simple
they were
as that.
fascinating, but we also felt enriched by reading it, and we never, had any, let's say, defined purpose for reading. But then when we started writing this book or the letter, this all came together, and we wrote this in actually a matter of less than a year, and we do think that it's the will of the universe, and we are the instruments in writing this book, and everything that we have done so far has been towards this purpose.
Very, very nice. And this is what I was reflecting on also. The book, starts from a story and it goes deeper into knowledge, into the knowledge of yoga. One of the challenges that every parent or many parents have, you talk about teenagers being rebellious and all of that, is how do we actually have children listen? You know, they will roll their eyes. Oh, dad, mom, they're giving the same gyan. We've heard this so many times, and so that also reaction comes, and of course part of the rebellion is in the nature of growing up, because one has to seek one's own identity. I always remember the Nachiketa story, which he starts off being really, he's looking at the hypocrisy of his dad in some ways, who's gifting all these cows which are actually not really very healthy, and then and he keeps questioning the father, and then the father is really angry at him. It's like, I'm going to give you away, so it's very fascinating. So how do you navigate that? Is there an answer for how do we have the children listen, or is there a way of communication that works in your own experience, or that may help others also?
I would say we are still figuring that out. But what we found is that the more we force things on children, the more rebellious they get. So I think it all comes down to the communication, how we have always managed to keep an open mode of communication to be able to discuss whatever. It's there's no, this is another thing that from our generation it's different, that there's a less of a power distance now with the children, so that helps to get ideas across. Because if we say because I said so, and that's where it stops, and that is going to take you only until 18. After that they're going to do whatever they want. So it's good to um, reason with them, and try to, of course there's no one approach which suits everyone. It depends on the children's personalities also. But the
No,
thing is to lay it all out like we have
true.
done in this book, and
Yeah.
see what sticks. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not now or never. They can learn at 20, they can
Yeah.
learn at 30.
But also, I think your question. I think this book is as much for parents as it is for children, because even as parents, if we zoom out and we have the understanding that uh, we are all part of the Brahman. There's the Atman that connects each of us, uh, whoever we are, organic, living, non-living, we are part of the same consciousness. The part of the same consciousness is there within our children as well. And so they are no less than us. They are part of the same consciousness. Yes, they have come into this world through us. We are an instrument of bringing them here, but they have their own self, which is the Atman inside of them. And okay, it may be the Atman is layered with their own karma and their vasanas and their own tendencies, their likes and dislikes. And as parents, I think if we have this view, we just help them to find a way to shed their ego, but at the same time in a healthy way, to realize, who they are and their potential. Of course, we try to do this through example. When we talk about yoga, we just don't talk. Uh, we ask Uma to join us in doing yoga. She sees, even if she doesn't want to join, she sees us doing yoga. So she will come and see us doing yoga in the living room. And even if she doesn't join us, at least the message she will perceive is that yes, they are doing yoga, or she sees how we try to adhere to the principles of yoga, whether it is saucha, cleaning the house, or being truthful. We, if she says, if she sees us talking, having interactions with others, she sees how the kind of language we use, the kind of actions we do, what we do in day-to-day life. So oftentimes that is more powerful than what we say. It is more about what we do. We try to set an example for her to so that she, gathers this information, processes this information subconsciously, and it stays with her. And now, she's an adult. We look at her as a friend more than our child, though of course we have to uh, kind of guide her sometimes, but it's more about talking to her in a friendly way. And that's how this book is also written, in a very friendly way as to approach them. But it helps for parents also to have a conversation with them, to actually understand uh, the larger picture of who we are as people, as individuals, how connected we are, um, and that each of us, and that is why this book is not prescriptive. It's not saying you do this or do that. So what we have tried to do in this book is, again, give her the wholesome picture of
Discussion.
the nature of the universe, the nature of consciousness. Questions like, what is my purpose? What is life? What is wealth? What is relationship? Is wealth good? How should we approach relationships? So these kind of questions, once we give a holistic view, it helps for people to figure out themselves. We don't have to prescribe. Once they kind of get the idea, I think they know what to do.
Also, it's about how the world is changing, and the means of communication is changing at a really, really fast pace. And what worked for us, for example, I read books. I love reading books. Now the children, they have a different way of consuming content, and they look at these small clips of TikTok, the small videos, and everything is within 20 seconds, let's say 1 minute. So eventually, we also hope to get some content out there in these kind of forms based on the book. So this also, we feel that it will reach the children fast better, and they can connect with it better. But for everything, this book, we hope, will be a basis of discussion.
Absolutely. I think I was also wanting to show the cover. I think it's a very beautiful, amazing cover that you've made for the book, or that we work on. Oh, Dharmaputri. It's just gorgeous. The cover itself makes you want to pick it up and see this young girl in a meditative pose. So, what's the story behind how that came about?
Uh, well, it's uh, it's. I mean, even the title of the book, So we uh, we were brainstorming. We shortlisted about 150 titles and subtitles, and we then did a beta test with friends and family, and we asked all of them, what they felt.
And we used to brainstorm while walking. We used to go
Yeah.
on these really long walks and discuss just one small topic, just the title. And then that will take like an hour or two of discussion.
So we had quite a few options, and then I will say it's Vidhya's. One day she had the insight, and she said, Dharmaputri, it should be Dharmaputri, because we saw there are a lot of books about Dharmaputra and about Dharma, but it was geared towards males. But at the same time, not just for the feminine side of things. So we said, okay, we have Dharmaputri, it conveys everything that we want to convey. And of course, since it's a letter for our daughter Uma, so we said, Dharmaputri, it sounds more natural, because this is how we want her to be. We want our daughter, our child, to be the daughter who follows dharma. So hence Dharmaputri, and we thought that O Dharmaputri kind of has a poetic ring to it. It's very similar to, you know, Mahabharata, where Krishna addresses Arjuna as O Arjuna, and
It's
so
so poetic,
yeah.
the way it comes across, and I don't believe any language in people speaking any language in the world will pick up on that. That it's a evocative title that you call, and so it so happens that after writing this book, we even started addressing her as Dharmaputri. We would call her as Dharmaputri, and initially she was like, "What is this?" And now she also identifies with it. So it's a small victory for us, let's say. At the cover, we had this idea that it has to be very specific about like what the book is all about. It's about a young girl who's at the beginning of her life, and it's the image of how we would like her to feel in life, like
Happy,
happy,
blissful. Yeah.
blissful, joyous, and eventually enlightened, and
Yeah.
that's the aura behind.
So the person, once they are, let's say, self-realized or close, connected with the Atman, that is the state of bliss, and that is what we try to bring out in the covers. The a young lady in a state of bliss, um, and of course the halo is basically the prana that shows, when people have healthy prana, it really people glow. So that's the glow. And yeah, we found a very good artist to come up with this drawing, and we are very happy as well. And
Well, I'll tell you a secret from a publisher's side, because I get to see so many books and so many titles, and oftentimes I will come across a book or a title and the author is very stuck on that particular title or the cover, and I will just say no, 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 no. In my mind I'm saying nothing doing, but what I'm telling them is, let's come up with some other alternatives and see where we can get to, because oftentimes uh, I would say in a good majority of cases, the initial cover that the authors or the title that the authors come up with is not the best. But when I looked at your book, I was like, this is perfect. Like, there's nothing I have to do with it, because it just had come out so well. So, absolutely, congratulations for that. It makes the book, it has that vibrant feeling, the color, the yellow in the back, everything. It has that feeling of energy and lightness. And I think this is also the way in which the knowledge got presented as well. So I would definitely congratulate both of you on doing a successful cover and title, because it's not always easy and it doesn't always come out right when you start off with doing it.
thank you. Yeah, I mean,
Thank you
we
so much.
yeah, we did work with a lot of options, and we did spend a lot of time. Even though we liked it, we still wanted to test the options, and we also looked at the other, titles in the market, because sometimes it's easy to get lost in the crowd if you have very similar sounding names, and so we wanted something to stand out as well. So this really helped. And perhaps a little bit on the subtitle as well, Indian Heart, Yogic Wings. Um, what we were thinking, what the Vedas and the Upanishads say, that the heart is or the Hridaya is the seat of consciousness within us. So the consciousness within us, or the heart, is the seat of all knowledge, the seat of all thought, words and actions. The heart is where our karma, vasanas are stored, and that is where that gives life to us. So that's why we chose heart, Indian heart, and Indian is, of course, how we share the ethos within us, which informs us how we go about dharma, the collective consciousness that we that we have. And yogic wings, of course, like we Vidya mentioned earlier, we through our own experience, we can see how yoga has helped us transcend the ups and downs of life. I mean, we also had a low points and challenges, and we've seen, we've gone through tough situations, but we found that yoga has helped us, remain centered and rooted. And uh, we think that yoga helps people transcend, the ups and downs of life. And you know, of course, we wish the best for Uma and everyone who's reading this book. But life, how it is, life has its ups and downs, challenges, our wins, our losses. And as parents, we have to prepare our children for both situations. How to not to get carried away by success, but at the same time not to get too overwhelmed when there are setbacks. And we've tried to share with Uma, whether it's what we learn from Sri Ram or from Sri Krishna, or through the path of yoga, how we can transcend these ups and downs of life.
It's one thing I think a lot of people do really handle their, the difficult situations in life well. They do handle them with, bravery, with grit, and, they overcome it. But sometimes what happens is that these difficult situations, they make you bitter and they make you hard. And this is something that yoga can directly help with, that it doesn't allow your heart to harden. It keeps it still soft, and you still can experience the joy and bliss once you've overcome, the difficult situation. So this is again another reason for naming it yogic wings, because yogic wings, it always reminds me of the analogy of eagle, because while other birds take cover in under a tree or in a bush, eagle is the one that soars above the clouds and above all these disturbances. So yoga, I hope, will give these kind of wings to soar above our difficulties and in life. So this was the reason for the subtitle. Again, the subtitle went through many iterations. We had considered so many different options.
Also 150 subtitles.
Yes, whatever was possible. But these spoke to us. This title and the subtitle and the picture, it kind of spoke to us, and we hope that they will speak to the audience, to everyone, and we hope that it will be useful as a guide, as a book, as a point of discussion.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we hope, that the book will give families, especially from India, to have conversations with their children. Because I'm sure every family in India, and of course worldwide, and whether they are in India or living overseas, they all have their unique life experience, and I'm sure all of them can relate to the stories within their own families. Where the parents have sacrificed for their children, or the brother, let's say the uncle takes care of the nephews and nieces. So every family I'm sure has got these stories, and they can relate to many of them, so they can have these conversations, and that is our aim.
I think one of our friends who read the book also said that every word of our stories, they reminded him of his own similar stories. So this was the point. It's not about just only talking about our stories, because these are the only ones we have. Mm-hmm. But the point is that the readers should hope. I hope that they will be able to connect with their own stories and with their own truths, because ultimately everyone has that truth in their life, and they will be able to see it. And I hope this book will aid as a tool in that journey.
Yeah. In fact, one of the readers, she reached out to us, and she said, when I read this book, I connected with my father who passed away 8 years ago, and for us, this was really touching to hear, and we were happy that we could, uh, uh, you know, uh, help her feel that connection.
Absolutely. And the book again that we are talking about is called O Dharmaputri. Definitely go to garudalife.in or garudalife.com to get your copy of it. And it's available at major bookstores and online sites. And to me, this is such a wonderful gift. The writing of the book, the telling of the book itself as a gift, as a gift that one can give to one's child or even to one's parents. I can see some children giving this gift to their parents. There is an interesting story from my own life journey. I became interested in yoga myself, and then started pursuing it more deeply. I became a teacher for the art of living, and then I took my parents for the first time to the art of living course. And in fact I taught that course, and then to the silence program, and met Sri Ravi Shankar Guruji. And it was really interesting to see that in the generations, uh, dharma keeps reviving. Whether it happens in a forward way or coming full circle. There is some seed that gets sown in us, and it gets planted, and who knows when it actually gets sprouted. So I feel that your book in that way is such a wonderful seed to plant in the family conversation, to plant in the stream of the family as it is going down its journey, as it follows. And of course the central part you talk about. I mean, this book is just full of wealth of different aspects of knowledge. The purusharthas, of course, you talk about in the book. And also I was very struck, in my own journey, in how I came to realize that everything in the Indian tradition, in the Indian society, in the way things are organized, from food to dance to music to art to science, was intended in a way to take the spiral upwards, for us to get to greater awareness, for us to get to liberation of in one sense or the other. And that's a process that unfolds, in our own life and in the life of others. So maybe just some final comments on, there is this whole journey of living, which is of course what dharma is about. And then there's the journey which is also seeking freedom from all the living, you know freedom from all the, oh, I'm caught in this and I'm caught in that. And to me, that itself is that that seeking, the mumukshatva, the seeking of being free. So how does the book relate to that? And as I said, it's a wonderful, wonderful gift for anyone, for a parent to write for their children, for a child to receive it, and for any parent anywhere to gift this book to their children. A wonderful gift on marriages and birthdays, and of course when they go off to college.
True, and actually we are also very practical people. So we have also included, a section on Ayurveda, about doshas and how uh, those influence our thought patterns. There are certain kinds of foods that make us, energetic. Some make us lethargic. So we try to also pass on this knowledge to the next generation, how we can modulate our food choices, so we are in the optimal state of physical and mental health. And further we have gone and actually listed down some of our the recipes that our grandmothers have passed on. By recipes I mean which herbs to use where. So if you have a cold, use turmeric, have turmeric milk or tulsi tea. Or if you have a stomach ache, use saunf or jeera. And how ashwagandha can help, or how a neem twig can help, or meswak can help our oral health, how triphala can help our gut health. So these are things which we take for granted. But what we have seen, let's say for example in Cyprus, speaking to my colleagues, they have even forgotten how to make yogurt at home. So when we say, okay, we make yogurt at home, they're quite astounded. So we don't want this,
Disconnect.
the disconnect, or to be away from nature. Everything that we need is there in nature.
Yes.
And though we may move away from villages and we may move outside of India, it's
We
quite
don't have to
important that
leave everything behind. No.
yeah.
And these supplements and everything, these are something that we practice in our daily life. Like we rely on the traditional remedies for everything, because um, they they were made and used in a time before all the technology and everything, and they somehow connect to the nature very, very in a very raw form, and we find them really useful in today's world. It's just that we have to remember them. That's it. And as you said, everything takes our energy in an upward spiral, even from yoga, from Ayurveda, because they were all parts of Veda. Yes. So when I studied architecture, I also learned from a Vastu expert. She's a practicing architect. She's also into Vastu, and there again, it's the science of Vastu Shastra is about optimizing your home, the design of the home, so that your energy is in harmony with nature. So this is the crux of that as well. So everything works to this, to raise the energy, as we said. Like, the heart is the seat of consciousness. So when you meditate, when you focus on different chakras, you can already feel the difference. When you meditate with the Ajna chakra, with the command center, you have a certain level of let's say higher vibration. That is beautiful, that's wonderful. But when it comes to people, with our relationship with people, it's always the heart. And when you meditate from the heart chakra, it really opens the doors of compassion, and you see all the it's not only humans, all the creatures, all sentient beings, and also the non-sentient beings. They all you open your heart to them, and it's beautiful. I'm sure it's not only in Hinduism, in Buddhism also they have this meditating from the heart chakra. So everything is pointing to raising our vibrations, and we hope this book will somehow aid with that as well.
Actually, that's the second part of the book. The second part of the book is all about elevating one's consciousness to the state of moksha or transcendence. And it comes with a clear roadmap about the 8 limbs of yoga, with the asanas, with the pranayam, with the yamas and niyamas, how to lead a proper life, and with bhakti yoga, how to reach that state of moksha. So that is actually the entire second half of the book, is a stepwise roadmap towards hopefully what is transcendence.
And it's also beautiful that you brought up art of living, because just before she went off to university, we were privileged enough to, all three of us, to attend art of living course, and
Here
we
in
also
Cyprus, yeah.
here in Cyprus, and we were also lucky to be part of the Sudarshan Kriya. It was really powerful, and we still encourage her to practice the breathing techniques and the meditation to feel what we felt there. She did feel it. She really thoroughly enjoyed the Sudarshan Kriya. So yeah, it's beautiful how our all of our stories have these common points, that we have all reached out to the same places to help us. Yeah.
Absolutely. The book we are talking about today is called O Dharmaputri, and wonderful conversation with Vidhya ji and Parani ji on this book. And this I was just also remarking, we are out of time, but just wanted to add this one thing where, I lived in the US for almost 35 years, and you meet people from so many different backgrounds and cultures. But it is something very special about our tradition that even through generations it gets carried. You know, you have stories of grandparents, living in foreign countries, and through I've met people in Fiji. I went to Fiji and I went to all these places where the diaspora has carried the culture for so many generations, which is unlikely to find almost for any other people
Yeah.
in comparison to what we have. So I think this is a great gift of our we are. I feel very fortunate to be born into this tradition where we have access to this wealth of knowledge that is available to us. So thank you so much, Vidya and Paraniji, for bringing this knowledge to light and in such an accessible format. This book is also like a mini encyclopedia of the entire tradition. It touches on so many ways. There is so much to learn from it. So I hope everybody gets a copy. And thank you once again. And namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaskar.